Hey Younger Youth, and welcome to week 2 of the Younger Youth Journal Summer Sessions. My name's Jazz and I'm one of the Younger Youth volunteers, and today we've got an excellent journal session lined up. We're going to have Dan Sublett speaking, so he's one of the youth pastors, and he's going to be talking about the story of David and Goliath. Now, no worries, if you've never heard all about this story, you're still in for a wonderful treat and Dan's going to explain it to you. Let's check it out.
Hey guys, it's Dan here, and today I'm going to be talking on David and Goliath, following on from our series where we take passages that you're probably familiar with. You've probably heard it in Sunday service talks before, and you've got a different interpretation, a new light on it. You see, the general interpretation of David and Goliath is that actually we are David. David is symbolic for us. We, with trust and faith in God, we can overcome our Goliaths, our life's Goliath, and we can overcome them. And you see, the problem with that interpretation is that it actually strings a false narrative of how God works. From my experience, God doesn't always give a pebble and a sling where you can just throw it at your problem and it will fall. He doesn't promise that, you see. He promises to be there in the darkness, be there when you're struggling, but he doesn't promise just to fix it for you. In fact, he fixes it with you, and that causes most of the time actually you to have to go through a journey with him. It's not a one-size-fits-all, you win and you overcome that thing. You will have to go through a journey through prayer and trust in God. And you see, the interpretation that you're David causes you to actually not see, causes you to move away from God, because if you think God just will fix your problem for you, actually, and he doesn't, you're just going to mistrust him. You see, secondly, seeing David is the hero of the story, and you see, if there's a hero, there's the enemy. And Goliath is obviously the enemy. And the problem with that is that when you apply that to your life, let's say you're being bullied at school, you see yourself as David, that means the bully is the enemy. And that doesn't make sense, that the bully isn't the enemy. God doesn't really work with enemies. You see, the problem with that is that actually you aren't meant to overcome the enemy. You aren't meant to solve it with that violence of just killing the enemy and beating him. Actually, God calls us to turn the other cheek. God calls us to forgive our enemies, to rise above our enemies and become friends with them. You see, that's the problem, actually. When you apply the interpretation of you as the hero, it means that others are the enemy, and it means that you can use and pollute God's word and make it seem and put others down. And that's not exactly how I think Christians should act. We should be forgiving our enemies. And thirdly, actually, finally, is we should be reading it through the lens of the New Testament. We should be seeing it as not the enemy. Not the enemy nor the hero, but actually, we're the Israelites. If you read the story, a quick summary is that actually there's the Israelites and the Canaanites of Goliath, and the Israelites are cowering in fear from him. They can't see a way through the Goliath, actually. And you see then, out of nowhere, a lowly shepherd boy comes and says, I'll fight him. I'll fight your battle for you. And the Israelites laugh at his face. They mock him. How could he, a small shepherd boy, never fought before, overcome such an enemy? You see, that's where actually it changes. And actually, we aren't David. We're the Israelites. We're the ones who cowered. We're the ones who mocked David. And actually, David is Jesus. See, it makes sense. There's a lot of parallels with Jesus. Jesus says he's the shepherd. David is a shepherd. Jesus says is the king and has become the king, and David was promised kingship. And you see, that's the thing. Jesus is the one, the humble boy who goes and fights the enemy for us. Jesus came to earth to fight the devil, not to fight our battles as we see them, defeat our enemies, but actually to defeat the enemy who is against God and just wants to tear us away from him. He's come to defeat the devil, and you see, David is Jesus, and actually the enemy, the Goliath, is the devil. See, that parallel makes so much more sense, because actually Jesus never says never sends you on your own to fight a battle. Jesus says he will fight your battles for you and he will be there for you. You see, he doesn't promise that we will be free from any problems, free from any bullies at school or your parents fighting, but actually he says, I've fought the battle that matters the most. I've beaten sin itself and death itself. So take joy in the fact that we can now rise above this world, these problems in our world. We can trust to God and we can, through him, journey to overcome these problems. But actually, in the end, we have won the fight. Jesus has won the fight and we have won eternal love and power and life through him. So have hope in that. See, that way of interpreting it brings so much more joy, so much more hope to me, because actually I'm not the one who's has had to fight the battle against sin. I've won that fight and I can take hope in that. So yeah, I think we should interpret it as Jesus being David. Because whilst we cower in fear and mock the idea that Jesus can solve all problems, Jesus goes out and wins, goes out and fights the fight. So next time you're in a problem, next time you're doubting God's power, doubting God's plan, just remember that he has fought the fight and won. He has overcome an enemy we can't even dream of overcoming. And through that, we can trust that he will help us overcome our enemies that we think we can't overcome, but actually through his power and through his trust, we can journey through this problem and overcome it. I'm going to end in a prayer. Dear Lord, thank you for coming to earth and fighting the fight that we all could never even dream of winning. And Lord, thank you for giving us stories that can be so many different ways of interpreting. Thank you for making the Bible not just this boring 2D thing that we take at face value, but actually it's all interlinked, all shows your light in a different shade.
So that's all for this week. Thank you, Dan, for sharing such wisdom with us. I hope you guys enjoyed that as much as I did. So that's it for week 2, but don't worry guys, next week, week 3 of the Younger Youth Journal Summer Sessions, we have Daniel, who's going to be sharing from the story of Daniel in the lion's den. Not himself in the lion's den, the Daniel from the Bible, they're just same name, it's a bit confusing, but don't worry, it'll be a great week, so come through and hear about that. Till then, stay safe, bye.